evening. Hello, welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. My name is James Fauntleroy. I am your host. So good to see all of you here on this Thursday evening. I know, I know. Look, come on in, sit on down, have a seat. You got your snacks? You ready? All right. Thank you so much to everybody for coming in and being here with me on this beautiful Thursday evening. And look, yes, I am doing a live reading tonight because I figured, why the hell not? I took a break from the Sabby and JB show because, Sabby's going on, a little, getaway. So guess what? I'm here live before you. And I was watching the Sabby show, the Sabby Sab show a little bit earlier, which is great. And some of you who are watching, thank you so very much for coming in. Now, just to let you guys know, the Jaybefaunt show is available on all major podcast platforms, so go ahead and subscribe to me there. I'm also part of Revolutionary Blackout Network, so you can subscribe to me and watch us throughout the week on RBN. Now, just as an aside, I also do have an announcement. Some of you guys who are live on the Twitters and the Facebooks and the Instagrams, you guys probably already know this, but I will let you guys know towards the end of the stream as well, so that you guys can hear my announcement. It's good news, so don't be worried. But by the way, I would just like to thank everybody who has already subscribed to my Substack to get email notifications. You can go to jbfaunt.substack.com for email notifications, because we all know that the YouTube algorithm is not that reliable when it comes to notifications. Just as an aside, some of you may have not gotten one for this stream. Who knows? But thank you so very much to everybody who subscribes to my Substack, as well as a huge major thank you to the patrons on Patreon, Coffee, as well as members. Thank you guys so much for all that you do. And also thank you to the people who send me mutual aid via some of the other platforms that I have in my description as well. But without you guys, I would not be able to do this type of work. And this is, it gets, more harder day by day. Rent goes up, or, tragedies happen or emergencies happen. So, it just makes it a lot harder. But I would not be able to do this without you guys. So thank you so very much to all of you who support this channel as well. Now, just to say hello to people in the chat, because I am doing live. Here we go. We have the Quantum Alchemist coming in saying hello. Hi, Quantum Alchemist. Sean Miller coming in saying I did not. Good to see you. Anybody that's watching on Rockfin and anybody's watching on Rumble, thank you so very much. By the way, this is my first reading on Rumble, so hello to everybody on Rumble. Now, I do these readings as well as on my channel. If you guys would like to subscribe, you guys can also see this as well. So thank you so very much. We also have Bryce Smith coming in saying, JB, good to see you, Bryce. All right. So what are we going to be doing today? Well, we're going to be doing the reading, as you guys see in the title, of Assata Shakur's autobiography. We'll be starting on chapter 12, part 2. I had to cut off a little early because I was having a lot of technical difficulties. And so I really did not want to have to put you guys through that. And so we're going to be starting back off on page 185. And so that's what we're going to be covering today from 185, and we'll be finishing out chapter 2. Now, the interesting part about this, this part of the book, towards the end of chapter 12, is Assata Shakur has some critiques that I think we need to take to heart in our perception of how we do things on the left. And so I think that this is a really good piece to take into consideration. And when we get to it, I'll let you guys know. But I really appreciate what she said. And by the way, this was written decades ago. So the more things change, the more they stay the same. So I just appreciate Assata Shakur for what she said in this book, especially in chapter 12. So if you guys have your own copy, you guys can follow along. If you guys don't, if you guys just want to listen, great. Thank you so very much. Page 185, chapter 12, and this is the second part. It wasn't until years later after college and more revolutionary activism and marriage that I began to seriously think about changing my name. The name Joanne began to irk my nerves. I had changed a lot and moved to a different beat, felt like a different person. It sounded so strange when people called me Joanne. It nearly had no, it really had nothing to do with me. I didn't feel like no Joanne or no Negro or no American. I felt like an African woman. From the time I picked my hair out in the morning to the time I slipped off into sleep with Mingus in the background, I felt like an African woman and rejoiced it. My big, abstract, black and white ink blot looking painting was replaced by paintings of black people and revolutionary posters. My life became an African life. My surroundings took on an African flavor. My spirit took on an African glow. From the paintings on my walls to the big fat pillows on my floor, from the incense burning in the air to the music dancing through the rooms, while my whole life was moving to African rhythms. My mind, heart, and soul had gone back to Africa, but my name was still stranded in Europe somewhere. Joanne was bad enough, but at least my mother had given it to me. As for Chesimard, well, I can only come to one conclusion. Somebody named Chesimard had been a slave master of my ex-husband's ancestors. Chesimard, like most other last names black people use today, was derived from Massa. Black folks went from being Mr. Johnson's Mary and Mr. Jackson's Paul to being Mary Johnson and Paul Jackson. Sometimes, before dozing off to sleep, I would lie in bed and think about it, wondering how many slaves Chesimard had owned in Martinique and how often he beat them. I would stare up at the ceiling, wondering how many black women Chesimard had raped, how many black babies he had fathered, and how many black people he had been responsible for killing. I wonder the same thing about Fauntleroy. You know, it's interesting. I did the whole, DNA testing thing. It was free, given to me by a relative, so I didn't have to pay for anything. But finding out that I have European, particularly Welsh and Norwegian, in my bloodline, somebody was assaulted. Somebody. Yep. Either our father's side, mother's side, or even both. Yep. So, just to let you guys know, a lot of times that's where we get our last names from. It's a hard truth, but we gotta confront it. So, and then also just to let you guys know, when it comes to me, I am now embracing more of my Africanness now. I think I said this before, but I used to feel that I was ugly because of my darker skin. For those of you who aren't black, or a lot of people of color also, see this phenomenon. But when it comes to those of us who are darker skinned, we also experience what we like to call colorism, which is a derivative of racism. So the closer you are to being lighter means the closer you are to whiteness. And so I used to feel bad about my darker skin because I felt that I was less attractive. And also I felt like I was looked down upon more because of being darker skinned. And so now that I, have moved and have grown, I now embrace it. You know what I mean? I used to want the straighter hair. I used to want the more, fairer features. But now, no, I embrace it. And so Yeah, we got to embrace who we are. So, continuing on. So the name finally had to go. I thought about Ibumi Oladale, but there was one problem. I didn't know what the name meant. My new name had to mean something really special to me. At the time, there were little pamphlets put out listing names and their meanings, but I had a hard time finding one I liked. A lot of names had to do with flowers or songs or birds or other things like that. Others meant born on Thursday, faithful, loyal, or even things like tears or little fool or one who giggles. The women's names were nothing like the men's names, which meant things like strong, warrior, man of iron, brave, etc. I wanted a name that had something to do with struggle, something to do with the liberation of our people. I decided on Assata Shakur. Assata means she who struggles. Ulugbala means love for the people. And I took the name Shakur out of respect for Zayed and Zayed family. Shakur means the thankful. At first, the Golden Drum Society concentrated its efforts on Black culture and history. But after a while, we started to examine our role as students. We didn't want to be tape recorders recording whatever information, facts, lies they gave us and then playing them all back during examinations. We began to talk about an education that was relevant to us Black people, that we would take back to our communities. We didn't want to learn Latin or classical Greek. We wanted to learn things that we could use to help free our people. One of our first struggles centered on student government. Most of us were from working class or poor families, and we wanted a student government that was responsive to what we needed. We didn't need a student government that was brown nosing the administration in return for favors and good grades. We wanted a student government that supported a Black studies program, more Black faculty members, and other Black causes. As a result, the Golden Drum Society and the Students for Democratic Society, SDS, ran a joint ticket and won by a landslide. It soon became evident that having control of the student government wasn't enough. It had no real power. We would pass resolutions and come up with proposals, which the administration would promptly deny. The only power we had over the student government, the only power we had was over the student government budget. Instead of instead of inviting reactionary scholars or politicians to speak, we invited the Young Lords or the Black Panther Party or some other group who was saying something relevant. One of our proposals was for students to work during the summer in remedial programs to improve the level of kids who had trouble with reading and math. Our idea was to have a few kids assigned to each student teacher, and that way, each one would receive the individual attention he or she needed. The academic curriculum was to be supplemented with courses that would enhance the students' sense of self-worth and give them more of a sense of their history. Student teachers would work with parents, visit the kids' homes, and create a kind of day camp by offering sports, trips, crafts, etc. Several of the Black faculty members helped us with the proposal. As soon as it was submitted, it was rejected. The administration claimed there was no money. A small investigation into finances, aided by some concerned Black and white faculty members, revealed that the president of the college was living in a house rent-free, that taxpayers were also providing him with a chauffeur and maid services, and that student fees, which had not been spent in previous years, were being invested on the stock market. A rather strange financial picture was emerging. After we made some of our investigation results known to the administration, we were informed that the money for the project had been found. You don't say. Living rent free and having a maid and chauffeur. Clean your own toilets, you rich bastard. Anyway, as a student teacher, I taught the reading and math in the morning and arts and crafts in the afternoon. The morning classes were tiny while the afternoon classes were larger, combining various morning groups. The curriculum included Black history, dancing and drumming, physical education, arts and crafts, in addition to reading and math. There was an excursion every Friday afternoon. My mother thought my teaching reading and writing was a joke. My spelling is terrible and my skills in mathematics are limited to 2 and 2 equaling 4. To prepare myself for the day's lesson, I had to study just as hard as the kids. My students shocked the hell out of me. Through conversation, it was obvious just how bright they were. Yet they scored way below their grade levels in reading and math. There was such a big contradiction between the intelligence they exhibited in class and their test scores that I didn't know where to begin. The books we had to work with were Reader's Digest like textbooks that I couldn't even imagine using. I didn't even want to read those things, and I knew sure as hell that my students wouldn't want to use them. So every day I took the vocabulary out of those books and wrote a little story, something I thought if the students would find interesting, typed it on a stencil, and ran it off. Excuse me. I brought all kinds of books to school for them to read. As long as they found the books interesting, those students would read until the cows came home. I was learning just as much as the kids. I found it oppressive playing teacher all the time, so every day I rotated the thing around. Everybody got to be teacher for a while. It was also great for discipline, since if somebody acted up in your class, you were free to act up in theirs. Nobody wanted to act up in their class, so everyone was more or less cool. That's actually a really good suggestion, because it's like you're giving the students an opportunity to take the place of teacher so that they can know what it's like to have to oversee a class. And I honestly think that that's a great idea. I think some teachers, should take that as a lesson. It's like, okay, have your student teach the class, have the student prepare a lesson plan and prepare, the lessons for that day. And then once they do that, then they teach the class. And then it also shows the students how tough a job of a teacher is. But not only does it show how hard of a job a teacher is, but it also can influence some students that, hey, maybe becoming a teacher will be something that you would like to do. So it shows respect for what a teacher does, but it also can foster, invigorate the student to want to become a teacher. See what I mean? Hands on, right? Continuing on. In order to teach, each one of us had to prepare our lesson and know what we were talking about. One of the boys in the class worked so hard on his lessons that he would just lay me out. I didn't know where he is now or what he's doing. But if he isn't a teacher, it's a damn shame, because he would have been a great one. He would cut out pictures and even make up math games for us to play. My class in the afternoon was usually exhausting. Clay paint, paper mache over everything and everyone, especially me. The first days of that class, I wanted to do nothing but go somewhere and have a good cry. On the first day of the arts and crafts class, I had nothing really prepared, so I asked everyone to draw themselves. When I looked at the drawings, I felt faint. All of the students were black, yet the drawings depicted a lot of blonde-haired, blue-eyed, little white children. I was horrified. I went home and ransacked every magazine I could find with pictures of black people. I came in early the next day and plastered the walls with pictures of black people. We talked about what was beautiful. We talked about all the different kinds of beauty in the world and about all the different kinds of flowers in the world. Just to stop there, one of the things I talk about, and a lot of, you know how a lot of times people will go, well, I don't see color. I just see the content of the character, not the color of their skin. When in reality, you do see color. Let's not, let's not, let's not fool ourselves. But the question is, do you see the beauty in every color? Because we know you see color, but do you acknowledge and see all the beauties of the colors? If you put a bouquet of flowers together, you see it together, you marvel at its beauty. You see the rainbow and you marvel at the beauty of a rainbow. Why not see the beauty in other cultures, in other colors, in other phenotypes, and other features? It's the beauty of humanity, right? So let's see color, but let's acknowledge the beauty within those colors. Right. Just a little thing, just something to think about. And then we talked about the different kinds of beauty that people have, and about the beauty of black people. We talked about our lips and our noses. We made African masks out of clay and paper mache, made African sculptures, painted pictures of black people and of black neighborhoods. Over the summer, I felt the classroom changing. The kids were changing, and so was I. We were feeling good about ourselves and feeling good about being with each other. I was so involved in working at the school that I had time for little else. If one of the students didn't come to school, I was at his or her house that very day wanting to know why. You know, some people would look at that kind of crazy today, you know, like, what is it your business? And it's like, teachers care, man, but they can only go so far. And the fact that Assata Shakur is doing that shows how much they really care. So I respect that a lot. I would go home and spend hours rewriting some story or preparing for the next day. Half the time, my mother would find me asleep with a book in my hands and the lights still on. I love working with the kids and I love teaching. My mother helped me quite a lot and we grew closer than we ever had before. I thought about becoming a teacher, but decided against it. For the first time, I became aware of what my mother had been going through all those years teaching in New York schools. Most of these principals were caught up in the bureaucracy, and they forced the teachers to be caught up in it too. They care more about what the teachers have written in their plan books, than what they were actually teaching in the class. My mother was working in an environment where white teachers often showed a hostile, condescending attitude towards black children, and where some teachers thought of themselves as zookeepers rather than teachers. You know, it's interesting. Some of my fellow students, when I was in middle and high school, would say they're just there to get a paycheck. We knew some of the teachers really didn't care, or some of the teachers were so exhausted, both mentally, emotionally, and physically exhausted, that teaching was just on autopilot for them. And that's the system, that we can't even give our kids the best. And we can't give our teachers the best. That means we can't give our kids the best. And we can't give our kids the best. We can't give our future the best. We need to do better. And we will. We will. As much as I love working with kids, I knew that I could never participate in the board of education kind of teaching. I wasn't teaching no black children to say the Pledge of Allegiance or to think George Washington was great or any other such bullshit. That fall, the level of activity on campus surpassed anything that we had dreamed of. Large numbers of students came involved in the anti-war movement. It seemed that there was no time to catch up on all the things that were happening. I would be at the construction workers demonstration one day and then the marching with the welfare mothers the next. We got down with everything: rent strikes, sit-ins, the takeover of the Harlem State Office building, whatever it was. If we agreed with it, we would try to give it active support in some way. The more active I became, the more I liked it. It was like medicine, making me well, making me whole. I was home. For the first time, my life felt like it had some real meaning. Everywhere I turned, black people were struggling. Puerto Ricans were struggling. It was beautiful. I love black people. I don't care what they're doing. But when black people are struggling, that's when they are the most beautiful to me. As usual, I was speeding. My energy just couldn't stop dancing. I was caught up in the music of struggle, and I wanted to dance. I was never bored and never lonely, and the brothers and sisters who came to be my friends were so beautiful to me. I wouldn't mention their names, but the way things are today, I'd only be sending the FBI or the CIA to their doors. There were a lot of communist groups on campus. I had no idea at the time that there were so many different kinds of communists and socialists. I had been so brainwashed that I had thought that all communists were the same, that they were Marxists, Leninists, Maoists, Trotskyists, etc. Most of the so-called communists I met weren't in any party at all, but just related to the philosophy of communism. Most followed very different political lines and policies, and it was difficult for them to sit down and agree on the time of day, much less hatch up some communist plot. Hold up. I got to take a drink for that one. Because communists, when it comes to agreeing, on stuff, it's like herding cats. Right? That's a hard truth. She continues. I was surprised to learn that there were all different types of capitalist countries and different types of communist countries. I heard the communist bloc and behind the Iron Curtain so much in the media that I had naturally formed an impression that these countries were all the same. Although they are all socialist, East Germany, Bulgaria, Cuba, and North Korea are as different as night and day. All of them have different histories, different cultures, and different ways of applying socialist theory, although they have the same economic and similar political systems. Now, as you all know, I am also doing the Marxism class with Midwestern Marx, and one of the ways that I actually describe different different socialist systems in different countries. Like, for instance, you have the social system in Vietnam, Cuba, China. Um, you know, um, the way you look at it is like looking at different types of potato dishes. You have potatoes au gratin. You have Hasselbeck potatoes. You have mashed potatoes, French fries, potato chips, etc., etc., etc. You have home fries, right? Each one of those are different and prepared in a different way, but the fundamental ingredient that is that they are potatoes. So that's the same thing. And so China may be doing socialism in a different way, but it's still socialism, right? Versus Cuba may be doing it in a different way, but it's still socialism. So we have to look at it like that. They're doing socialism in different flavors. So just to give you guys a synopsis of that. It has never ceased to amaze me how so many people can be tricked into hating people who have never done them any harm. You simply mention the word communist, and a lot of these red, white, and blue fools are ready to kill. Right? I wasn't against communism, but I can't say I was for it either. At first, I viewed it suspiciously as some kind of white man's concoction until I read works by African revolutionaries and studied the African liberation movements. Revolutionaries in Africa understood that the question of African liberation was not just a question of race, that even if they managed to get rid of the white colonists, if they didn't rid themselves of the capitalistic economic structure, the white colonists would simply be replaced by black neo-colonists, colonialists. There was not a single liberation movement in Africa that was not fighting for socialism. In fact, there was not a single liberation movement in the whole world that was fighting for capitalism. The whole thing boiled down to a simple equation. Anything that has any kind of value is made, mined, grown, produced, and processed by working people. So why shouldn't the working people collectively own the wealth? Why shouldn't working people own and control their own resources? Note, capitalism meant that rich businessmen owned the wealth, while socialism meant that the people who made the wealth owned it. Bars! Bars! I'm going to repeat myself. Repeat what she said. Capitalism meant that rich businessmen owned the wealth, while socialism meant that the people who made the wealth owned it. There we go. I got into a heated arguments with sisters or brothers who claimed that the oppression of black people was only a question of race. Listen up. I argued that there were black oppressors as well as white ones. That's why you got blacks who support Nixon or Reagan or other conservatives like Tim Scott or Candace Owens, right? Black folks with money have always tended to support candidates who they believe will protect their financial interests. Hello, Jay-Z, Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry, Rihanna. See? As far as I was concerned, it didn't take too much brains to figure out that black people are oppressed because of class as well as race. Because we are poor and because we are black. It will burn me up every time somebody talked about black people climbing the ladder of success. Anytime you're talking about a ladder, you're talking about a top and a bottom, an upper class and a lower class, a rich class and a poor class. As long as you got a system with a top and a bottom, black people are always going to wind up at the bottom because we're the easiest to discriminate against. Because there is a physical distinction. That's why I couldn't see fighting within the system. Both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are controlled by millionaires and now billionaires. She said it right here. Right here, she said it. They're interested in holding on to their power, while I was interested in taking it away. They were interested in supporting fascist dictatorships in South and Central America, while I wanted to see them overthrown. They were interested in supporting racist, fascist regimes in Africa, while I was interested in seeing them overthrown. They were interested in defeating the Viet Cong, and I was interested in seeing them win their liberation. A poster of the massacre at My Lai, picturing women and children lying clumped together in a heap, their bodies riddled with bullets, hung on my wall as a daily reminder of the brutality of the world. All of those people, all those Democratic politicians, all those Republican politicians supporting the wars, the proxy wars, supporting the military industrial complex, giving billions of dollars to them. Yeah. Assata Shakur, she saw them years ago. Nothing's changed. So when we talk about walking away from the Democratic Party, this is why. This is why. And then you have some that are critiquing people like Dr. West. At first, he was run through MPP, and I had my concerns, right? And then they were like, well, if he ran green, that would be better. 2 days later, Dr. West runs green. He switches to the Green Party. Well, if he ran Democrat, then he could have a better chance, and I think he should just run Democrat. But if he ran Democrat, he would never make it out of the primary. And if he didn't make it out of the primary, you would not be able to vote for him in the general. And guess what? You guys say that his message needs to be, platformed. Well, if he makes it to the general, which he, has a good chance of doing, and guess what? He can make those policies popular, running as a third party. But some people, nothing is good enough. They want him to run as a Democrat, so then they can cheat him just like they did Bernie, and they can go, oh, they cheated him again. I guess that's just the nature of the business. They think we're fools. Now, I believe in actually going outside the system, building dual power out in the streets, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but at least the message is being put out there as far as policy is concerned, so that we can move and have a national conversation. Manhattan Community College had not one course on Puerto Rican history. The Puerto Rican sisters and brothers who knew what was happening became our teachers. I had hung out with all my life with Puerto Ricans, and I didn't even know Puerto Rico was a colony. They told us of the long and valiant struggle against the first Spanish colonizers, and then later against the U.S. government, and about their revolutionary heroes, the Puerto Rican Five: Lolita de Peron, Rafael Miranda, Andres Cordero, Irving Flores, Oscar Calazo, each whom had spent more than a quarter of a century behind bars, fighting for the independence of Puerto Rico. Once you understand something about a history of a people, their heroes, their hardships, and their sacrifices, it is easier to struggle with them, to support their struggle. For a lot of people in this country, people who live in the other places have no faces. And this is the way the U.S. government wants it to be. They figure that as long as the people have no faces and the country has no forum, Americans will not protest when they send in the Marines to wipe them out. This also reminds me how I do want to have a stream where I have a panel of leftists from Puerto Rico. I want to talk to them about their history, as well as um, I would love to get some of the new young lords. Oh, that would be great. But I would like to get some, to talk about their concerns, from being a colonized people. I would love to, get that get that perspective from them. So I'm going to be trying to reach out because it is very important that we talk to the people, especially the workers in Puerto Rico, Puerto Rican workers who are here in the United States, as well as back in their home country. I have begun to think of myself as a socialist, but I could not in any way see myself joining any of the socialist groups I came in contact with. Here's the point. I want you guys to listen very carefully. I love to listen to them, learn from them, and argue with them, but there was no way in the world I can see myself becoming a member. For one thing, I could not stand with the condescending, paternalistic attitudes of some of the white people in those groups. Some of the older members thought that because they had been in the struggle for socialism for a long time, they knew all the answers to the problems of Black people in all the aspects of the Black liberation struggle. I couldn't relate to the idea of that great white father on earth any more than I could relate to the great white father up in the sky. I was willing and ready to learn everything I could from them, but I damn sure was not ready to accept them as leaders of the Black liberation struggle. A few thought that they had a monopoly on Marx and acted like the only experts in the world on socialism came from Europe. In many instances, they downgraded the theoretical practical contributions of third world revolutionaries like Fidel Castro, Ho Chi Minh, Agustino Neto, and other leaders of liberation movements in the third world. We have to be careful not to continuously center ourselves. When it comes to the Black liberation struggle, you have to let the Black people lead. That's the thing, man. Have to be careful. Right? That's a lesson for the left. That's the lesson that we have to learn. Is that when it comes to Black people, we got to be careful. We have to consciously look at them and go, okay, you guys lead the way. What do you guys need? How shall we proceed? Another thing that went against my grain was the arrogance and dogmaticism I encountered in some of these groups. A member of one group told me that if I was really concerned about the liberation of Black people, I should quit school and get a job in a factory. That if I wanted to get rid of the system, I would have to work at a factory and organize the workers. When I asked him why he wasn't working in a factory and organizing the workers, he told me that he was staying in school in order to organize the students. I told him I was working to organize the students too, and I felt perfectly certain that the workers could organize themselves without any college students doing it for them. Some of these groups would come up with abstract intellectual theories totally devoid of practical application, and swear that they had answers to the problems of the world. They attacked the Vietnamese for participating in the Paris peace talks, claiming that by negotiating, the Viet Cong were selling out to the U.S. How many people look at China and go, oh no, China's not actually socialist. You know, they still got billionaires in there and they're not socialist at all. When in reality, they're moving in a socialist direction as we speak. But a lot of people who say things like that, are they actually out there on the ground, or are they just practicing theory? Are they just studying theory and not actually giving it proper application on the ground? Assata Shakur called them out in the book. She did it in black and white in 4K, baby. She continues, she says, I think they got insulted when I asked them how of a group of flabby white boys who couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag had the nerve to think that they could tell the Vietnamese people how to run their show. Okay. Arrogance was one of the key factors that kept the white left so factionalized. I felt that instead of fighting together against the common enemy, they wasted time quarreling with each other about who had the right line. Although I respected the work of political positions of many groups on the left, I felt it necessary for Black people to come together to organize our own structures and our own revolutionary political party. Friendship is based on respect. As long as much of the white left saw their role as organizing, educating, recruiting, and directing Black revolutionaries, I could not see how any real friendship could occur. I felt and still feel that it is necessary for Black revolutionaries to come together, analyze our history, our present condition, and to define ourselves and our struggle. Black self-determination is a basic right. And if we do not have the right to determine our destinies, then who does? I believe that to gain our liberation, we must come from the position of power and unity, and that a Black revolutionary party led by Black revolutionary leaders is essential. I believe in uniting with white revolutionaries to fight against a common enemy, but I was convinced that it had to be on the basis of power and unity rather than from weakness and unity at any cost. Whew. Poem to my mama, to my mama, who has swallowed the American dream and choked on it. To my mama, whose dreams have fought each other and died. Who sees but cannot bear to see a volcano eating its own lava. To my mama, who couldn't turn hell into paradise and blamed herself, who has always seen reflected in her mirror an ugly duckling. To my mama, who makes no demands of anyone cause she don't think she can afford to, who thinks her money talks louder than her womanhood. To my butch femme mama, who has always taken care of business, who has never drifted hazily to sleep thinking he will take care of it, who has schemed so much she sometimes schemes against herself. To my sweet shy mama, who is uneasy with people because she don't know how to be phony and is afraid to be real, who has longed for sculptured gardens, whose potted plant dies slowly on the windowsill. We have all been infected with sickness that we can be traced back to the auction block. You must not feel guilty for what has been done to us. Only the strong go crazy. The weak just go along. And what I thought was cruelty, I understand was fear. That hand, stronger than yours and wider than yours, will strangle my young life into oblivion. Mama, I'm proud of you. I look at you and see the strength of our people. I have seen you struggle in the dark, the world beating on your back, dragging your catch back to our den, pulling your pots and pans out to cook it, a mop in one hand, a pencil in the other, marking up my homework with your love. The injured have no blame. Let it fall on those who injure. Leave the past behind where it belongs and come with me toward tomorrow. I love you, Mommy, because you are beautiful, and I am life that springs from you, part tree, part weed, part flower. My roots run deep. I have been nourished well. That's chapter 12. Next time is going to be chapter 13, beginning on page 195. So what you guys think? Yeah. You know, the agreeing with communism, but at the same time, you know, that contention with the left, especially the white left, we gotta work on that. And so I think that's something that really needs to happen. Need to look at ourselves in the mirror and see that sometimes we can get in our own way. I think that's really important. What do you guys think? Do you think that the left is on its own way? Or do you think that the infighting is just really the left calling itself out for leaving behind what it needs to leaving behind its revolutionary roots? And some don't like to be called out on that. What do you think? What do you think? Did you guys like the stream? If you guys haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Now, I have an announcement, and some of you guys probably already know where I'm going. But just to let you guys know, I am sending out a form for the RBN chapters in Orlando. So as for the Orlando chapter, one of the things I'm doing is I will be putting out an invitation for people to do a meet and greet. So if you're in Orlando or Central Florida, you know, we can meet here in Orlando, have a meet and greet, and we're going to talk about some of the things that we want to provide for the community as a whole. And we will be doing, I say, about 4 or 5 things, different things that will be teaching people different things. So it's going to be, you know, I'm going to be asking you for, of course, your name, your email. And if you can make it to the in-person, will you be able to physically attend? I would like to, if you are in Central Florida, if you aren't able to physically attend, we can probably do like a Zoom so that you can be there present as well, just in case. And this is for people who may be disabled, who aren't able to attend physically. So that's what I'll be doing. And then I need you to be a Central Florida resident. It's not absolute, but I would like for you to be a Central Florida resident. If you're visiting Central Florida and you want to help out while you're visiting, that's also an option as well. Okay, so then you can do that. One of the questions I asked is, this meet and greet will focus on community needs and ways that we can teach as well as provide resources. What type of volunteer work would you like to do? And you have the options of education and teaching. So you can teach a Marxism class, you can teach cooking classes, you can teach gardening, you can teach financial literacy classes, You can teach classes on things like how to influence maybe local government or ballot initiatives, things like that. So you can teach things like that. Even how to navigate the Section 8 system, or how to navigate housing systems, how to navigate Social Security. You can teach classes like that. You can also do physical work, which would be food and water distribution, clothing, toiletry distribution, cleaning, repairing. So you can do that. Or you can also do fundraising for food, gardening, office toiletries, tools, bail funds, etc. And then, there's an other where you can also say, well, I would like to provide this for the community, right? And if it's applicable and, we all vote on it, then I'd say then, we can do that. So we can add that to the criteria, or add that to the program as well. So if you selected other, what type of skills would you provide? And then you can actually give an answer on that. Also questioning if you have personal transportation. That's not necessary for you to add, but it is good to know who has transportation, because some of us may not have transportation and some of us may need to ride with others in order to get to different functions or for the meet and greet and things like that. Or, it may be, tougher for us to get to where we need to. So we might want to have functions closer, if we can, to the other people who don't have transportation, so it can be easier for them to get to, where they need to go. So just to let you guys know, the email that you provide will be, I will take those emails, and then you guys have until June 30th to get the applications to me, and to finish the applications. And then once the applications are all finished by June 30th, by July 1st, then what I'll do is I will send you guys a location of the meet and greet. It'll probably be at like a Panera Bread or a coffee shop or something like that. It's not going to be anything fancy. And then we'll, meet on the day in the location. And then once we meet, we'll talk about the things that we want to do for the community collectively. And then we'll decide on it through democratic process. And then we'll get it set up, and things that we need to do in order to get that started, so that we can start doing things within our community, having different actions and means of communication and things like that. Okay. So that's what I would like to do. And so, of course, this is going to be the Orlando chapter, the RBN Orlando chapter. I also call it Central Florida as well, because there may be people throughout Orange County that want to join in as well. All right. Now, because I have a lot of people in the chat, I'm going to say hello. Hello. All right. All right. So last I left off was, let me see. Quantum Alchemist says, like I keep saying, JB should do some cuts and pasting and parts together and turn the whole thing into an actual unabridged audiobook. I mean, I could, but at the same time, I think there's also audiobooks out there. So that's why I don't do it. As you guys notice, I do not monetize the readings for this, because I don't want to necessarily make it seem like I'm trying to make money off of them. And so I don't monetize at all. If you guys do want to share like super chats, or if you guys want to contribute to me, that's fine. That's cool. But I just want to put the information out there and, talk about it and, learn in real time along with you guys. So that's what I like to do. Good to see you, Norman Keena. Thank you so very much for joining in. Who else? So Concha, good to see you. All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, I needed to get that forest off the top of my head. I called it my own personal deforestation. All right. Who else is in the chat? Let's say hello. We have Aaron says history is a slow march to victory. That's an interesting but nice quote. Never heard it that way, but thank you so much. Yepx says, I sent you a Twitter DM on a stream that you and your audience would greatly benefit from watching in regards to the LGBTQ community. Okay, thank you. All right. We have Angela Sangsta, who's also a JB member, says, liked it very much, as always. Thank you. Thank you so very much. All right. Cameron Hart says, decolonize its thinking. Is used too much reductionist analysis that leads to false dichotomy. Thank you so very much as well to Cameron. What about teaching safety measures when dealing with the police in a protest? That's actually, yeah. That's a good suggestion. Thank you so very much. All right, just checking to see who else. Oh, Hobo Roddy, good to see ya. All right. All right. Okay. So good to see all of you here in the chat. And thank you so very much to everybody. So I cannot wait to start this chapter because I really want to do things on the ground. Hey, Zero Joshua, good to see you. All right. And let me check on the rock as well. Ooh, I got people on the rock. Ooh, I'm going to tell your auntie. I'm going to tell your mama. All right. Thanks to Dave Burt. Says, Assata is a great book. Hearing the words of the book here is helpful to mine. Dave Burt says, centering and reflecting in the mind meant. Oh, gotcha. Thank you so much, Dave. Appreciate it as well. All right. And I should check Rumble. I wonder if there's anybody in the Rumble chat. Let me check. Da 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 ooh da 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 Inspector Gadget da 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 da. Nobody commented it on Rumble yet. But anyway, hello. So I just want to thank you guys for tuning in. Also, if you guys have not, be sure to like the stream. And thank you so much to everybody that's already subscribed to my Substack. If you guys would like to get email notifications, you guys go to jaybefaunt.substack.com for those notifications, because we all know that the algorithm is not that reliable when it comes to getting notifications whenever I go live or upload clips. So be sure to do that as well. And also, in addition to, and furthermore, thank you so very much to all the people who also contribute to Patreon, Coffee, memberships, to my GoFundMe, to my Cash App, to my Venmo, to my PayPal, anybody and everybody. Thank you so very much to all of you. I would not be able to do this work without you guys. It means so much to me. Thank you. A million times. A million kisses on your forehead. All right, everybody. So I'm going to head out. I gotta get me something to eat. And you guys are wonderful, beautiful, all one same. Good to see you. Thank you so very much for being in here too. And so one of the things I'm gonna do is I'm gonna head out, uh, grab something to eat, and chill out for the rest of the evening. Yeah, and by the way, clips are coming out tomorrow. Clips are coming out tomorrow morning. Clips are coming out tomorrow morning, Saturday, Sunday, and I think Monday morning. Oh, and by the way, um, on Tuesday, I'm going to be having on Nelson Betancourt. From He's going to be talking about a public banks in Orange County here in Orlando. That's going to be interesting, as well as I'm going to be having another interview on Tuesday. So two interviews, and I'll be talking to Akila Enai from the African People's Socialist Party, the Uhuru movement. She's coming back. We're going to be talking about the indictment and against the members of the African People's Socialist Party. So I cannot wait. So I'll be having her on this Tuesday as well. So be sure to tune in for that too. So yeah, it's exciting. And then I'll be on RBN on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, as always. So yes, thank you so very much, everybody, for tuning in. And look, like I always say, water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Smoke them if you got them, drink them if you got them. If you ain't got them, then just watch something funny, because joy is revolutionary. And by the way, when it comes to reading theory, read it. It is good for you, but also give it proper application on the ground. And when it comes to marginalized groups, defer to their leadership, because we save us. And if we save us, that means we need to be the forces behind our own liberation. If you're white, be sure to don't censor yourself. Defer to Black people or queer people or disabled people for the leadership in their groups. All right? So, and do it in love. Do it in love and respect. All right? Or if you're in a women's group, if you're a man, don't censor yourself. All right? You got to be careful with that. And do it in love. All right? Anywho. Oh, slipped my mind. Mwah, forehead kisses. I know you were waiting for it. Gorgeous people, you. I need to just ravage you. Ravage